Welcome back to the Dinarr Daily, your trusted source for real stories, deep dives, and uncovering the hidden truths behind the global currency world. Today's headline might just blow your mind. Massive Iraqi dinar reserves in America? The truth about hidden billions. What if I told you that trillions of Iraqi dinars, worth potentially billions of dollars, may have been quietly sitting in secret storage facilities across the United States for over 2 decades? This isn't some internet myth or random speculation. This is a story about real money, secret programs, and powerful operations that may have been running behind the scenes since the early 2000s. So grab your coffee and stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might start looking at the global currency market in a completely new way. Let's rewind to March 2003. The US invasion of Iraq had just begun. Saddam Hussein's regime fell and the country was thrown into chaos. Most of the world's attention shifted toward rebuilding Iraq and restoring order. But while the public focused on politics and reconstruction, something else was happening quietly, something extraordinary. Massive amounts of Iraqi dinars were reportedly being transported out of Iraq. Not millions, not billions, trillions. These weren't just stacks of worthless paper, they were pieces of a currency that, under the right conditions, could someday become valuable again. And while most people assumed the old Iraqi dinar was dead, others saw opportunity, a chance to hold on to a currency that might one day make a powerful comeback. Here's what makes this story even more fascinating. When a government collapses, its currency doesn't instantly lose all value. Old money often lingers, and if the nation recovers, that currency can skyrocket in worth. History shows that savvy investors, financial institutions, and yes, even governments, sometimes hold on to foreign currencies during periods of instability, betting on a future rebound. That's what some believe happened here. As Iraq began to rebuild, certain U.S. agencies and private contractors may have seen the dinar not as scrap paper, but as a long-term strategic asset. This sets the stage for one of the most intriguing and least-known financial operations of the modern era. Now, according to multiple internal reports and whistleblower claims, certain U.S. government entities may have been involved in quietly acquiring and storing massive amounts of Iraqi dinars during and after the Iraq War. We're talking about agencies like the CIA, the Department of the Treasury, and possibly even contractors working under Pentagon directives. These weren't random or rogue efforts. They appeared to be organized, documented, and structured. The idea was simple but bold. If Iraq stabilized and the dinar gained value, the U.S. could benefit enormously. After all, who would be better positioned to understand Iraq's future economic prospects than the very nation helping rebuild it? The more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Currency speculation isn't new. It happens every day on the global stage. But when governments engage in it secretly, the implications become massive. Holding trillions of a foreign currency that the rest of the world considers worthless could be a calculated move, one that might pay off big in the long run. Imagine the power of holding that kind of leverage. If the Iraqi economy recovered and its currency strengthened, those trillions of dinars could suddenly translate into billions of dollars. It's a strategy that could reshape financial balances quietly, without anyone knowing, until now. Evidence from various reports and leaked documents points to possible secret storage facilities located across the United States, in places like Nevada, Texas, and Virginia. Each site allegedly contained anywhere from 500 billion to 2 trillion Iraqi dinars. Think about that. At one point, these American stockpiles may have contained more Iraqi currency than Iraq itself had in circulation. These facilities were said to operate under tight security, with extremely limited access. Staff were compartmentalized, meaning most only knew their specific duties without understanding the bigger picture. Everything was tracked, cataloged, and logged into internal systems that may have used code names and special protocols. One such system, reportedly called the DR protocol, was used to track not only currency movements, but also Iraq's political and economic performance. It monitored oil output, government stability, and reconstruction progress, basically predicting when the dinar might rise in value. If that's true, then this wasn't just a stash of cash. It was part of a long-term strategy built around intelligence, economics, and patience. The DR protocol would have allowed officials to make decisions based on real-time geopolitical data, adjusting strategies as Iraq's situation evolved. That's not something an ordinary investor could ever do, and that's high-level coordination. So, how did this remain secret for so long? The answer is classic intelligence tradecraft: compartmentalization. Only a select few individuals were granted access to the full scope of the project. Others handled isolated tasks without realizing how they fit into the grander plan. Non-disclosure agreements, classified access levels, and need-to-know restrictions ensured that information stayed tightly sealed. This kind of operational design isn't unusual for national security matters. But when it involves financial speculation on a foreign currency, it raises major ethical questions. Over the years, however, cracks have begun to appear. Former government employees and contractors have reportedly stepped forward, releasing fragments of documentation, everything from bank transfer records to storage receipts and internal memos. These documents suggest that the program was far more structured and official than a few rogue investors making a bet. If these records are legitimate, it points to an ongoing government-linked operation that has never been publicly disclosed. That means trillions in foreign currency might still be quietly sitting in U.S. hands right now, unreported, unacknowledged, and potentially still active. If this sounds unbelievable, remember, not everything the government does is published in the budget. There are classified programs, off-the-book projects, and financial dealings that never make it into official reports. But if taxpayer money was used to fund currency speculation, that crosses into controversial territory. The question becomes, who authorized it? And if profits are eventually made, who benefits? The government, private contractors, or the American public? Reports suggest that these operations didn't stop when U.S. troops left Iraq. Some evidence points to continued currency acquisition and management well into the 2010s, even as Iraq's economy slowly stabilized. That means this may not just be a story about the past. Some of these stockpiles could still exist, quietly being monitored and held for a right moment that might not have arrived yet. Imagine a scenario where a small shift in Iraq's currency value could unlock tens of billions in hidden profit overnight. Let's put the numbers into perspective. Today, $1 equals roughly 1,300 Iraqi dinars. So on paper, even trillions of dinars might not look like much. But currency speculation isn't about the present value. It's about the potential future value. If Iraq's dinar were to strengthen even slightly, those hidden stockpiles could explode in worth. A 50% increase could translate to billions in profits. And if these holdings are indeed government-controlled, that money technically belongs to the American people. So why don't we see it reflected in official financial statements? That's a question no one seems eager to answer. When you dig deeper, the lack of transparency becomes a bigger issue than the money itself. Either these stockpiles exist and are being deliberately kept off the books, or they don't exist at all, meaning the secrecy surrounding the rumors is masking something else. Both scenarios are troubling. If they exist, it suggests hidden financial operations using public resources. If they don't, it begs the question, why the classified programs and restricted records? Either way, this is a mystery that deserves daylight. And here's where the story expands beyond Iraq. If this kind of covert financial operation happened once, what's stopping it from happening elsewhere? Could there be similar hidden caches of Venezuelan bolivars, Iranian rials, or other foreign currencies tied to U.S. operations? It's not far-fetched. Governments have always leveraged currency as a tool of influence, but when secrecy replaces accountability, it becomes a threat to trust. The bigger issue isn't the money, it's the lack of transparency. To understand why this matters, you need to look at Iraq's slow but steady economic comeback. Since 2003, Iraq's oil production has risen, foreign investment has returned, and its financial systems have started to modernize. If U.S. planners foresaw that, it explains the long-term play. Holding on to trillions of dinars during Iraq's reconstruction could be both an economic and geopolitical strategy, using currency as leverage in shaping a nation's future. But again, if taxpayer resources were used to speculate for profit, where is the oversight? This raises a critical ethical question. If the dinar appreciates and those secret reserves skyrocket in value, who reaps the reward? Is it reinvested into public programs? Or does it quietly vanish into classified budgets and private accounts? These are the kinds of questions whistleblowers have been asking, and they're the reason this story is finally gaining traction again. The public deserves transparency about how their money is used, especially if it's tied to covert financial speculation.